What is going on, my digital currency world, cryptocurrency world? This is Crypto Watch, and we're finally going to test out this new format. Finally, have a full-length podcast type of episode here. Hopefully, we can get two segments in. This is what I'm planning. Instead of dividing into two parts, two segments, we're going to talk about what the latest news, the big news of the week was. And then hopefully we can get you a special guest on the line for the second part of the show. So let's get right into it. You can, as we all know now, earlier this week, it's been about a couple of days now, live streaming it or however you got your news, the big hearing, the Senate hearing with the SEC and the CFTC. This was a hearing with the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, regulations of cryptocurrency, of the cryptocurrency market. As also kind of noticed that throughout the hearing, they referred to what we know as crypto as they were mentioning it as virtual currencies. That's I guess another word for it, or what we're going to be using now legally. And the hearing would have both chairmen of the SEC, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, and of the CFTC, Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which we're kind of familiar with from was it last week or maybe a week and a half ago, with their subpoena of Bitfinex and their Tether token. And a lot of that, they didn't mention that by name, but as you can see, all this hearing was all about regulation and cracking down on fraud, particularly in ICOs. Of course, Tether wasn't an ICO, but that kind of lands into the scope of what they were trying to accomplish here. So who was in the meeting? As far as we know, all the senators that belong to this banking committee. But the representatives of the SEC and the CFTC were Jay Clayton, chairman of the SEC, and a pretty popular guy now in crypto who we kind of all like. I liked his take on what the currency situation is on crypto, and that is Christopher Giancarlo, chairman of the CFTC, who, in my opinion, and of course this is all my opinion, it's only what Crypto Watch thinks and how we can understand this new currency and the currency market. They're just trying to watch out for all the new and I guess uneducated investors that are really want to get into this popular new world here. And pretty much what the senators were trying to outline here was the all the possible threats of what can happen in this unregulated, decentralized, and we know the whole spiel of what the cryptocurrency and the altcoins and Bitcoin in particular possibly can help out in negative ways. To me, the one I took the most that can actually bring a big subject into this was the foreign countries, like specifically Russia, Venezuela, using cryptocurrency to avoid U.S. sanctions. That was brought up to the chairman, and from what I understood, that's not the big issue. Yeah, it's something that needs to be looked at, but it's minimal. It's what the minimal use of crypto is nowadays. It's grown so huge and it's so big. Most of it is not really being used. Of course, not saying that there's nothing shady going on, but obviously they're going to look into that. But that doesn't seem to be the biggest priority, but it is one of them. The other main thing they talked about was all the fraud with these tokens, and particularly ICOs. The SEC's chairman, Mr. Clayton, did not really like how ICOs are being brought out. He mentioned that they're not the same as IPOs, as in the standard stock exchange market, and if they are trying to be portrayed as IPOs, they should follow the same regulations that the SEC has put out and for the standard market to prove the legitimacy, and so crack down on fraud, and so people are protected. One of the questions that was asked by one of the senators is a lot of people can lose money just by fraud or by these exchanges being hacked, whether here on U.S. soil or foreign exchanges, to provide protection to the investor against hacks and fraud. And the honest answer given by Mr. Clayton of the SEC was little to nothing. There's little to none. And the funny thing is, the senator's face was kind of a blank. Couldn't really say anything about it. It's pretty much how it is at this point. There was examples given that in the current stock market there are policies, of course, that you can buy insurance. An investor can buy insurance policies, protect themselves against that type of fraud or bad exchange or anything in that sort of matter. Not if the market goes down and it crashes, but just against fraudulent crime or things like that when you invest your money into something like this. So they seem like they're really trying to protect the new investor and find ways to make this a little safer, especially because a lot of new people are really getting into this, and a lot of the young generation is the millennials. I'm sure you've seen many stories out there already that millennials are more comfortable with this market than the traditional stock market. I think one story says that they're just afraid of the stock market, how it is, which it kind of doesn't make sense, but it does. Cryptocurrency is a lot more volatile than the market, and by comparison it's a lot safer, but it kind of still is scary to the normal American, I guess you can say. As far as cryptocurrency is something new, we don't know where it's going, what's going to happen, and that volatility kind of attracts the investor who likes to take risk. Or I would think a lot of the prices of the altcoins are so minimal that it kind of gives you a low risk buy-in into this market, if that makes any sense. So that was pretty much what the hearing was about, more about regulation and protection. I didn't think there was anything malicious towards the cryptocurrency market here, at least here in the United States. That I didn't think the mood or the tone was anything vicious or against trying, cryptocurrency and trying to stop it or keep it from growing. I think the outcome is positive, and it is intriguing where this is going to go. Some senators are more not as optimistic, more pessimistic about the market, but I would say the majority, including the two chairmen, Mr. Giancarlo and Mr. Clayton, seem they just want things regulated, as far as in a protective type of way, not because, at least for now, because they want to see how much money we can generate out of this for, taxing our investors, taxing all our cryptocurrency market shareholders or whatever, even though it's not a share. Well, if that makes any sense. The last point was that I like the beginning where Mr. Giancarlo gave an example of how this is affecting everybody's family. Of course, us that are already in this crypto market, we're probably the ones that everybody, and I'm sure we're not the only ones, but that in your family you're the person that's really into it and finding out and researching, as we are. We're just fans. We are very interested in this, and so does the chairman of the CFTC. Gave an example that it's been brought up in his family and in a lot of other of his colleagues and senators' families, where the new generation, the millennials, especially, in their perspective, are interested in cryptocurrency, and it's something that's not going away, and they don't want it to go away. They just want to make sure everything's on the up and up, in a way to say it. And just driving to my last point before we ended up here, and then we'll move on to the next segment, is just on the CFTC website. I kind of like what they've done. I was just checking this past weekend after the Bitfinex and Tether story that I wanted to follow up on what's going on with that subpoena, and I went back to the CFTC website, and there was a kind of a notice on the upper let's see, right hand corner, kind of towards the bottom, of what their what the CFTC is kind of doing in the future as far as virtual currencies and Bitcoin in particular, as far as keeping track of everything that's going on. The nice part about it is that it's kind of a warning to, as for now, but it's kind of buyer beware. You go into this, there is no regulation, just kind of giving the public food for thought here that they're limited on their jurisdiction on what they can come down on. Right now, ICO is really the main topic, and fraud, which both agencies are looking at right now. But if you click on the section for Bitcoin, you get a whole new web page just devoted to virtual currencies, as they call it now, and how you can learn what Bitcoin is if you're really that new, and what the blockchain technology and that sort of thing. I want to say also that they I'm just going to take a look here real quick. They give a warning about the IRA approved. I guess there's a story out there where there's these virtual retirement accounts that supposedly the IRS has approved IRA currency accounts, which is completely false, and it's not true. So I would like that disclaimer that nobody buy into that and fall for that. Okay, and pretty much it's a nice little webpage that I encourage you to go. CFTC website is .gov, of course. It's /Bitcoin. So that'll be it for this section. So we're switching things up here. We're switching gears off our topic. And we finally have the man himself on the line here. Our producer, Crypto Watch, participated as a co-founder of Moth. Glad to have you on, bro. What's up, buddy? It is Mr. Rick Rock. How's it?
Hey, everybody! Thank you for actually hearing us here. Me and guys on live. Thanks for inviting.
All right, I'm glad I finally got to have you on the show. I know it's just gonna be like a quick on our crypto line here, but let's get right into it. We're just gonna go through a quick summary of pretty much what the state is at right now. I know you have your thoughts on what all these articles on the bubble that many people are saying we're in. I'll hand it over to you, and let's get your thoughts on there, Mr. Rick Rock.
All right, here we go. Well, looking at the whole market, being in the market for a bit, and look at the actual, state right now. You have a lot of FUD going on. You have a lot of things crashing the market at the same time. More than one thing. You got the Bittrex, the Tether, the Korea. You have China want to go in and out. You have the SEC regulation helping the FUD. So you have all this stuff. In my opinion, we went from the $800 billion market cap space to 300 plus market cap space. To me, if you drop 50%, we're in a bubble or are in a bubble, and the bubble already popped. And it took more than half of the market cap space with it. But I believe that's that's the weak hands of the FUD. But I think we're still gonna be we're still strong and surviving at the end of the day.
Yeah, can't argue with that point right there. Real quick on the Korea, what are you hearing from over there? I know we hear contradicting stories all the time. They're banning it, not banning it. Same thing with other countries, Asian countries. What do you think about that one?
I think it's more. My opinion is I think everybody's gonna take part of it. I believe the blockchain's too big. It's probably it's too big to fail. I think it's one of those now, kind of like the internet, where they're waiting for a big maybe power country to go ahead and take the first step, and I believe that's going to be the United States. And when the United States does that, then the domino effect is going to go ahead and start, because now we're talking about somebody starting with blockchain, and when somebody holds blockchain, you're kind of ahead of the game. And I don't think China, I don't think Russia, I don't think other countries want the United States ahead of the game. So if the USA jumps, somebody's going to jump first, then it's going to cause a ripple effect and a domino effect.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's definitely the feeling we get, especially with that CFTC hearing, that we were hearing. That it doesn't sound like we're trying to ban or trying to get rid of crypto. It's actually just trying to. What I was thinking is just put some regulation, a little bit. Not they don't have really the jurisdiction to really tamper down that hard, but it looked to me, it sounded like they're open to it and they want to explore what crypto can do in the future, right?
Yeah, and I agree, and I feel that way. And then what happens after that? So now the water's going to start settling, right? And now you have the money that's on the sidelines. You have money that's on the sidelines waiting, which now we're looking at bigger money, bigger investors. So whoever's maybe in it now is going to actually, probably going to get a good return because we still haven't had the heavy hitters come in and play.
You're right.
So I'm excited with the crypto, what's going on right now. I know we're in a bubble. I know it popped. A lot of people are not happy. But unfortunately, if you do not understand how this market works, there's a reason why you panic. You have to fully understand what type of investor you are. Are you a long-term holder, or you're a day trader? So you have to make decisions, and then you'll understand your emotions after that.
Well, that's some good advice, Mr. Rick Rock. I know everybody would like to hear that. Well, that's if you have any other thoughts, I think that'll do it for the segment, and I'd like to end it on that. It's a great point to end on, and some good advice, sir. And just real quick, remind everybody where they can find you at. On your, you have a Twitter, right?
Yeah, on Twitter. So Rick Rock on Twitter. We'll also have starting a new podcast called A Little Bit of a Lot. It's going to cover a little, and you know what I mean.
All right.
But I'm excited about that show too.
Oh.
And you could, But I'll be talking to you guys soon.
All right. Thanks for coming on. That's Rick Rock, everybody. That's one of our co-producer, and that'll be it for Crypto Watch. Hopefully, we can put this together, and we can put a great show for you. So I'm in a podcast format, but we're working on it. And I guess I'll see you next time. Crypto Watch 2018.
Crypto Watch 2018.
You can't stop!